The Elder Scrolls Online Update 46 PTS launched yesterday, and with it comes a massive list of changes. Everything from introducing the new zone, to subclassing, to balancing, and more. My name's Doc, and in this video I'll be breaking down all the important changes that have arrived to the PTS for my fellow healers. Grab a beverage, get comfy, and let's dive right into these patch notes. So starting with subclassing and pet behavior. I'm sure it's no secret to anyone that above all else, the biggest change coming to ESO with this new update is the introduction of subclassing. It's a way for you to use skill lines from other classes by trading out one of your own. I've talked about it a bit already in my ESO Direct video, and I'm working on a separate, much more in-depth video going over how subclassing could affect healers specifically. For now, know that it's here, and it has the potential to completely change the way that we play the game. With subclassing, this means the potential for many more build opportunities, and one of the most quoted builds I've seen discussed are pet builds. This kind of build essentially just revolves around having as many summons up as humanly possible, and between the Sorcerer and the Necromancer, I might actually try making a healer pet build myself. With a large number of players potentially trying out pet builds, it could cause some serious strain on both ESO servers and people's gaming systems. So, in order to combat this, ZOS has made some changes to the way that summoning and replacing pets has worked. As you can see, the limit is 10 pets per person in PvE environments, and it's only 5 in PvP environments. If you try to go above that limit, a pet will unsummon itself to make room for the new one, with some exceptions to that rule that you can see on screen right now. They've also made some slight adjustments on how long some pets will stay spawned that you can see on screen as well. Overall, I'm super excited to see all the pet builds you guys will come up with, and I'll make sure to put out a video over that healing pet build whenever I get around to making it. And next, let's talk about sets, or I guess, well, I should say set, like singular. When it comes to the new zone, Solstice, there really aren't any sets directly focused on healing and support. There are certainly some sets that a healer could probably benefit from, but not because those sets were made for specifically healers. The set we will be talking about is from the new trial Ossian Cage. It's a light armor set called Recovery Convergence, and the 5-piece bonus is that overhealing a target will build stored energy. When you hit 10,000 overhealing, your stored energy will be at max, allowing you to hit a synergy that will restore magicka and stamina to you and your group members. It sounds pretty cool, but also, honestly, pretty weak, in my opinion. Dedicating a healer to sustain outside of maybe like Symphony of Blades just hasn't really been needed for quite a while now. If this set didn't have a cooldown, I could maybe see a stronger argument for it, but on top of it being a sustain set, it also has a 30-second cooldown. It's not terrible by any means, but I'll be honest, it feels like it should be a dungeon set, not a trial set. Well, even though sets won't shake up the meta, let's talk about healing and support skill balancing, which I think will definitely change things up a little bit. And starting with our Dragonknights, my DK healers, you guys weren't really affected by any of the changes. I put a couple of the skills that I sometimes see you guys running up on the screen right now in case that does affect you, if you maybe want to pause the video and read those real quick. I do think for the most part though, my DK healers, you guys probably really won't notice a difference. For my Templars, my fellow Templar mains out there, Luminous Shards now allows you to also use the synergy. You can use the synergy now. While I can't think of too many scenarios where Templar healers would want to use their own shard synergy since only one person can use it at a time, it's still a nice touch, and it can allow you to maybe trade some magicka for some stamina if you need it. Healing Ritual no longer ignores line of sight. To be honest, I doubt most people will really notice that change. Mending passive now increases all of your healing done by up to 13% rather than only increasing restoring light healing by up to 12%. While I don't think that raw healing output is what's holding Templar healers back, this is still a pretty huge change because this means that you'll now also get a bonus to things like combat prayer, regeneration, vigor, and other class skills. So expect Templar healing to go up quite a bit. Lightweaver also now makes it so you automatically block all attacks at no cost for a couple seconds when channeling or using a cast time ability instead of just giving you extra armor. I would need to maybe do some testing to see how this feels in practice, but to me, honestly, sounds like an improvement. I'm excited to try it. Next, on to my Nightblades. And this is Grim Focus received a change that will allow for more stacks, but less extra weapon and spell damage per stack. Mathematically speaking though, this is an overall buff to the skill. It'll just take a little bit longer to get to max stacks. They also removed the glow effect. I honestly didn't even realize that so many people hated that glow until I saw all the discussions online, so I guess that's a good thing for my Nightblade mains out there. No, I kind of like the glow. Maybe that's just me. The Dark Vigor passive now also gives you slightly more health. The Catalyst passive gives you more ult charge when drinking a potion. Honestly, that will be a pretty decent buff to the ulti-gen build, which is already strong, honestly. So I'm excited to see, how much further we're going to be able to push this build, especially with subclassing. The Magicka Flood passive now increases your maximum Magicka and stamina rather than just your Magicka, though the increase is a little smaller now. Considering how high our max Magicka could get on some of our healing builds, I do understand why they toned it down a little bit, but having that little bit of extra stamina to make up for it is a nice touch. And finally, the Soul Siphoner skill also received a small nerf at the low end. Next is the Sorcerers. So the main thing that would affect Sorcerer healers is the rework to the Daedric Summoning Tree. A lot more of these skills and passives will now require you to actively have a pet in order to gain the benefits from this. I won't read off every single one, but I've got it on screen if you want to pause the video and take a look real quick. My Sorc healers that enjoy running Twilight Matriarch may actually see some of these as a buff. Of course, though, for my Sorc healers that don't use pets, honestly, you might as well just go ahead and trade out the whole skill tree at this point. And next, on to my Wardens. So the Bond with Nature passive got a buff to the healing that it gives. The Flourish passive got a huge buff to Magicka and Stamina recovery. Both of these are really solid, but I'm especially excited for the Flourish buff. While I imagine my multi-class Wardens probably aren't going to take the Animal Companions line, my pure Wardens will see a substantial buff, especially if they're running something like Blue Betty. The Nature's Gift passive increased the Magicka and Stamina recovery you gain when healing someone, and the Emerald Moss passive increased the healing done with green balance skills. Again, both of these are awesome. The Nature's Gift buff is pretty small, but still nice. Emerald Moss now being 5% increased healing instead of 2% is large heals per second buffs to Warden there. And if Green Balance wasn't already a must-pick skill line for healers, I can guarantee it most definitely is now. Lotus Flower also received a bit of a nerf, reducing the healing done by heavy attacks by around 20% according to the patch notes. I never really saw Lotus Flower as a particularly strong skill. I'd run it every now and then for some extra heals while light attack weaving, but ironically, that aspect of the skill wasn't changed at all. It was only heavy attacks, so this skill will probably still be worth running. Finally, the Frozen Armor passive was buffed to give more armor per Winter's Embrace skill. While armor isn't the most important thing for healers, it's still a useful buff considering most Warden healers will have at least 1 or 2 Winter's Embrace skills. And up next, we have our Necromancers. So, reusable parts, Health Avarice, and Last Gasp all got some minor buffs. While these are probably more impactful for my tanks than my healers, staying alive is still an important part of a healer's job, so any small buffs to our survivability are always welcomed. The Curative Curse passive received a buff to further increase our healing done, and the Near-Death Experience passive got a little bit of a nerf, giving us a less crit healing chance, and Undead Confederate received a nerf to our health, Magicka, and stamina recovery. While I do think that a couple of these will sting my necro healers out there, I think the extra survivability will make a positive difference overall. And for our last class, the Arcanist healers. So, you Arcanists, The Arcanist domain skill is now limited to 6 people, and I'm going to be honest, this one hurts. It's definitely not too hard to overcome this by just having a second Arcanist run the domain skill, but until we know exactly how the targeting works for this, we can't really say for certain what the plan for overcoming this is. The Healing Tides passive got a buff to further increase our healing done per crux, very nice. The Hideous Clarity passive now restores both magicka and stamina, rather than just the highest maximum of the two. The Aegis of the Unseen passive now gives us even more armor than previously. And the Wellspring of the Abyss passive was nerfed to give us less health, magicka, and stamina recovery. So, like I mentioned, Arcanist domain nerf definitely hurts, but it's nothing we can't figure out. I mean, we'll test how the targeting works and all that, and we'll figure it out. And honestly, I doubt most people will even notice the Wellspring nerf due to how well Arcanists already sustain themselves. Everything else, though, is honestly really nice, and I'm looking forward to seeing how other classes can interact with the Crux system. There were, of course, some other changes and adjustments, but those were the bulk of what us healers need to be aware of going into the Update 46 public test server. Overall, I'm pretty excited to try out some of these changes, especially once we start mixing and matching classes. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it useful. Let me know what you think of some of these changes, as well as if maybe I missed something that you think could affect healers. Remember that I've got some other videos coming out going over my initial thoughts on the new content in the PTS, as well as some subclassing theory crafting. But I figured I'd do a dedicated video to the patch notes since there were a lot of them, and I didn't want to make the PTS video super duper long. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my link tree in the description so you can join my Discord server and be notified when those other videos go live. I'd also like to take a moment to thank my Patreon supporters, Dylan Stewart and Sharni Lee, as well as my YouTube member, Austin Anderson. Thank you guys for your continued support, and I really appreciate it. Finally, I think all I've got left to say is that I've been Doc. Take care of yourselves, be good to others, don't forget to hop into the PTS if you're on PC, and I will catch y'all in the next one.